Hello everybody, welcome to episode 3 of my Let's Play review series. This is Diablo 3. I have completed the playthrough of the game at this point, so at this point we're just going to do a little bit of gameplay while we do this review today. Using the Necromancer. Start. Actually, we'll use the good Necromancer for this. Vladimir. Okay. So let's start with the graphics. The game is a much newer game than was Diablo 2, and of course, the graphics are much better. However, for the time, they probably could have had actually even better graphics, but the game does look very beautiful. The ability to zoom in, nice feature. You get to see the animations of things like these wings, skeletons, and so on.
No.
Oh, I don't have a thing here. Hovering, the movement, not too jittery. The game runs at decent frames per second. Things have nice details in terms of quality. Now, we go into a rift. I may or may not be able to handle. I don't actually know how strong this build is.
Are you ready? Then your trial begins.
Oh, perfect. So, things like barrels have awesome exploding dynamics and mechanics, as well as these burning props, which do leave some of the debris on the ground, and some of it does not stay. And it's nice that you can still interact with the debris until it eventually fades off the screen. Now, enemies...
My essence is too low.
It's going to be a little harder than I thought. So, in terms of enemies, their animations are also very good, and the stylization of the game, not as dark as Diablo 2, but I find that the quality is still relatively good. If we were to compare this to, say, Whimsy, which was a big argument back when the Diablo 2 first came out, is that the game was not dark enough. It was too World of Warcrafty, too bright, too colorful. And while I do think that the game should be much darker and grittier, the game is actually not that bright. We're actually going to go to Whimsy right now. To look at that. Oh, let me lower this one more time. And give you guys an ability to kind of see. But what's nice, the foliage, very well done. The perspective I like too as well. It kind of gives you that sense of mystery behind everything, and darkness. So that's pretty cool. Now, of course, the Necromancer was not an initial release class, so did have to have the Necromancer be added in as an expansion, which was pretty cool in that sense, because they were just splitting the game up until they, I guess, canceled development to focus on other games, like Diablo 4 and the unfortunate, I won't say it's unfortunate just yet, but the not so well received Diablo Immortal.
The end.
But if you compare here, we're talking this cow.
We see you have brought the item. That is good. We are coming.
Is this?
Yeah, I'm not gonna even. I'm just gonna go in. So this is what they imagined the Diablo-like colors of the world to be if they would have played the game
Essence is too low.
in what people were describing. So Blizzard's little way to make a joke, I suppose. So graphically, I think the game is a vast improvement obviously from Diablo 2. Many years have passed since Diablo 2 has been released, and the game definitely shows for it. Wow, this Necromancer is a loud class, guys. I'm trying to keep this low here, but the effects, you figured the master volume would lower everything. Let me see. Oh, there we go. that's weird. What's the point of having a master volume if it's not going to control everything? Uh, we'll leave the music. So,
Do not fear the end.
the game is a sequel to Diablo 2 and has actually pretty good music, I would say. They cover a wide variety, obviously not including the music here. They cover a wide variety of themes, very similar to Diablo 2. I want to say Chaldeum does have a soundtrack very similar to Act 2 in Diablo 2. So I think they were really trying to, really trying to connect to the origin of the series. That was, well, not the origin, but the essence of what Diablo 2 made Diablo 2 great. And so I think there's a little less originality in it. But if you hear some of the music from some of these acts, you find that very like similar drums, deserty kind of feel, or at least what we've accustomed to deserty in the Diablo series. So I will say the soundtrack is really good. I actually love the Reaper of Souls soundtrack much more than some of the soundtrack in the main Diablo game. The expansion soundtrack was I found to be very good, and the soundtrack to the Necromancer expansion also very good. If we go to where is that actually? I think it's Act 3. No. Let's go to Szechuan for a second. So, music in Szechuan, very good. I'm really like, I'm having a brain fart here because I'm pretty sure. Oh no, Grey Hollow is over here. Okay, so Act 5 they added the download content, and the download content also has some music as well, which I think further enhances the greatness of the game. And I think that the cemetery, no.
I did not believe the legends. All true. Be silent. What?
So they added nice ambience, and I think the expansion really captures the essence of the darkness, and for whatever reason, I am struggling right now with being able to show you guys the area of the game that most captures what I think everybody wanted Diablo to be when it first came out. They've grown the game, which is great, but what they wanted the game to be, what people wanted the game to be, the Temple of the Firstborn. What people wanted the game to be is not what the game started out as and only grew to. So the Temple of the Firstborn is the best example of the gothic dark look that they were looking for out of a Diablo game, and the music also matches. It's dark, it's eerie, corpses all over the place that just make it look like what people imagine a Diablo game should look. You know, very dark, creepy, gritty. Even the enemies here, they tend to be more Diablo-like, what kind of demons we would imagine. Let's see if I can find some more. Oh, book.
Everything has changed.
So, the game's graphic style and music, they go hand in hand because they kind of give you the essence of what you're looking at. Fields of Plains, for instance, Fields of Misery, I'm sorry, a place that's very bright, and while it's kind of, you know, a segue into another part of the game, the fact of the matter is it doesn't have the same prowess that like a place like the Temple of the Firstborn has, where you feel like you're in this dark Diablo-like place. So unfortunately, that's how they made the game originally, but they did learn from that, and hopefully, you know, when Diablo 4 comes out, and we do our Let's Play of that,
and rot.
we will see that they have further enhanced the darkness and eeriness of the game to better fulfill that sense of what Diablo is. Path of Exile, a game commonly compared to, definitely has that dark, gritty feel, and personally, I'm not a fan. It's not
All
as streamlined,
must
so
serve the cycle.
I think there should be a little less streamlining than Diablo 3, but a little more streamlining in Path of Exile and a little less streamlining in Diablo 3 compared to 2. So if we look at cinematics, the game has beautiful cinematics, and I think tell the story very well. They don't think there was any issues I had with the game cinematics telling the story and enhancing the experience of what you played, as well as I want to add that all the NPC characters very, very well voiced dialogues. When I did my Let's Play review of Diablo 2, it was very surprising to me that I never recognized how little work was put into some of the voice lines, even though there was a lot of voice lines, and a lot of them you had to like, I mean, you had to kind of discover. I like these little star. Makes it really easy to kind of find if there's new dialogues to listen to, what they're going to say. And Diablo 2 didn't have that, so when you spoke to people, sometimes you heard the same phrases, sometimes you heard new phrases, and a lot of the phrases, except for, I want to say Act 1 and Act 2 were the most well-voiced. Act 3 and beyond, mediocre. Even Act 5, where you kind of thought maybe they would add more, didn't have that. So I will say that all the acts, all the characters, even side characters where you kind of walk up to them, and they're talking, so I don't know if they're going to do it over here, but sometimes they do, you know. Side characters will talk a lot, and actually Westmarch is a good place for that. You see that there's like these side dialogues which are also interesting and kind of grow with the story, which I thought was a very nice feature. So while it's not a cinematic per se, what makes it great is you hear like the world, and it kind of makes it feel like it comes more alive. And it's probably not going to do any of that now that I think about it, because we're in adventure mode. So there probably won't be any side dialogue. But like there's a couple that's over here you talk to, and then they also have side dialogues as well. Merchants, different other characters that are around the maps, which makes it really cool because that kind of like really like fleshes out more of the story, more of like what's going on, kind of gives you a sense of despair or like the stressing out of what's been happening, as well as your companions that they talk with each other. And so there's additional dialogues which you don't see in the Let's Play, that further enhance the story of these characters, because they're always interacting with each other, and you hear how their relationship also grows. So story and cinematic wise, I think those two go hand in hand in how they tell both pieces. It's nice.
As well.
Like this.
Do you know anyone who perished there?
Yes,
How have you hidden your grief so well?
I never said I liked them.
So little things like that, awesome, like little effects that you kind of discover as you play the game, and you kind of just sit there and hear them talking between each other. So I think it's a very good feature about what makes this game, oops, sorry about that, a unique experience, because you can kind of see the story unfold through the telling of these things, and I hope that they continue to do that in future Diablo games. Now, content. So, if we're going straight vanilla, you had the stash, which had originally these tabs. That's it. You had your inventory, no weapon swap, no paragon, and a lot of useless stuff. After Loot 2.0, content in terms of gearing, items, vastly improved, and they continue to improve that system. Again, with the streamline effect, I personally like, and you kind of saw a little bit from 1 to 70, or 1 to 60. I mean, it's still there in some aspects. Like you could find like crappy gems, but pretty much you don't find anything below this gem quality. For instance, the Marquise style. And why I think that's important, when they updated the loot system, they changed how you kind of progress your character, and rather than going through hurdles and hurdles and hurdles and hurdles and hurdles just to get an upgrade, it's an unnecessary grind. That being said, they added power creep. Lots and lots of power creep. Now, I lowered the torment difficulty, but I believe the current torment max is at 16. When it originally came out, there wasn't even torment. It was 4 difficulties: your standard, normal, nightmare, hell, inferno. Inferno was impossible. Max perfect gear was the best way to kind of like begin to farm that, and then you would get better perfect gear as time went on, because there was you had item level, which I have no old gear to show you, but in the corner here where it says required level 70, it actually used to say required level 60, and then item level 61, 62, 63, and then each act had higher level gear. So you had to farm an act to get to the next act, to get to the next act, to get to the next act, until you got to the last act, and then you'd farm the last act, or the best part of the act before, to get the best gear in Infernal difficulty. Now, they changed that to the monster scaling with the character, and then difficulties to scale the difficulty of the monster scaling. So, hence the Torment system. Started up with Torment 6, expanded to Torment 12, 10, and expanded to Torment 13, I think, and then added 16. It's power creep. Unfortunately, because of it being power creep, one of the things I did not like is that there was no finishing point. I think now they finally ended the power creep, so now you actually get to experience the game. And I believe the max rift, greater rift level is 150. Don't quote me on it. It could be 100. But you can cap out on the greater rift, which is a nice kind of like, if I wanted to say I finished my character, finished the game, I would work on reaching that max greater rift and then be done. Skill wise, they have, I think, a nice assortment of skills with a nice assortment of skill runes. The adding of items like this. So they added items later in the game. So we'll use Nemesis Brace as an example, and the Reaper's Reps. So they started to add items when they started after Loot 2.0 that had additional effects, which kind of added to more uniqueness to the builds. Now, unfortunately, the idea behind this, while great, actually I find fell short, because what happens is, let's say you have the Corpse Lance shoulders, right? You need this to have a successful build, period. You can't do a good Corpse Lance build without the shoulders. I like the idea that you had items that enhance the build, and I think it would have been better rather than, again, this is why I say power creep, you see the damage value here, right? Rather than having the damage value be focused, one of the things that they didn't do so well with itemization was they added a lot of power creep that forced you into specific items for specific builds. Now, items like the Legacy of Nightmares rings, Wailing Host, Lineage of the Daunted, they are a better idea of what you would want, because you're getting items and your build gets stronger because you're just wearing these rings. But still, another version of power creep. What I would have rather seen is more unique ways that items would have interacted with skills. One of the examples of that was with the Sorceress. So the Sorceress actually has, the Wizard actually has an item which I may or may not have. Oh, so like, okay, Etch Sigils was a good example. The Arcane Torrent, Disintegrate and Raider Fast also casts whenever you're damaging arcane spenders. That is a cool interaction item. I think more of that kind of stuff would have been better for the game in the long run, because you would have been able to make unique builds without the power creep factor that allowed you to, okay, I want to be a spam caster, so I could put on these channeling shoulders that let me channel more frequently and do more damage for all my skills and that are channeled. And then at this, where I can now also summon tornadoes, or maybe I want to summon frozen orbs, or maybe I want to summon meteors. And that, for me, I think made a lot of these items that came into the game are really good for making things more unique, move unhindered through enemies, changing the way you can play the game. But with the power creep, there are still limits, and that's where things like this, unfortunately, as you get higher and higher and higher and higher into the torments, unless you're like Paragon Bajillion, your ability to perform with builds like this begin to just decrease over time, because you're unable to do more. I don't mind items that are like lightning damage is increased, because those items, you're enhancing all skills that you have as a character in one aspect. But when you have an item like the Corpse Lance Shoulders, where you're only enhancing one aspect of the character, one skill of the character, it makes it more pigeonholed. So while of course it makes the builds great, and if you want to be a corpse lance build, you can do it, the itemization unfortunately left a lot to be desired, and a lot of stuff became either you used rings or you used sets, and if you didn't have sets, you couldn't just make a build just for the sake of making a build and try to find other ways to enhance that build. You were kind of pigeonholed into using certain items. The Kanai's Cube did help with that when they released that, which was a nice little feature that allows you to equip stuff, but again, pigeonholes them further. Like Tasker and Theo is required for a pet build. You don't use Tasker and Theo, and you're really not efficient with a pet build, especially one like mine where you're summoning the skeleton mages, and faster you attack, the more damage you do. So, um, having this item effect that you could put on an item would have been, I think, a better way of utilizing a system with these features than having an item that you are required to wear. And I think that is a huge difference in what itemization could have been like. If you came across increase your attack speed of your pets, and let's say the range is 30 to 50%, so you find the best one, which is 50, and you want to save that, you can use the cube to store that thing, and then enhance item gloves with this feature, but not through the cube like this. You could add it to the gloves, and maybe you want to be wearing Rathmas, so you want to have fast attack pets with bones. I'm sorry, not Rathmas, Pestilence. But you want to use bone skills, but you want to have a fast attacking pet. I don't know, something. But with power creep, it doesn't allow that. So that's my thoughts on gameplay itemization. One last bit about the gameplay. It is a lot of fun. I will say that. I enjoy this game. I played this game for God knows. I don't even know if there's a way, if there's a command to see, excuse me, how long I've been playing. I've been playing since release of Diablo 3, so a long time. Now, with that being said, I've had a lot of stints where I haven't played very often, so my Paragon level is 899 because I haven't invested a lot of time in endgame farming. A lot of my time would be spent on making builds. I have every character, build for every character, multiple builds for every character. I'd play seasons, I'd play for a little bit and get what I wanted out of the season, and that's it. So the reason I am not a higher level Paragon is for that reason. I don't spend time just farming to like get the highest rift, because for me that wasn't fun. Trying to find the very best top tier, and of course they added ancients, and then after ancients they added primal ancients. So the loot hunt evolved in that way, which for me is a little bit unfortunate, but overall, controls feel nice. I find that everything's, for me, I've never really changed custom. 1 to 4, left and right click. Health is cool. Each character has their own little pool of things. Skill changing, which you can't do in combat. All really good features. Your little icons here to tell you what buffs are displayed is helpful as well. Characters sit up here. The only other thing I would say about this game, story-wise, is that they told a good story, and I think there are some aspects that could have been better, but I feel like it's the same way when it came to going to heaven and hell. A lot of foreshadowing, certain things that didn't happen that you would really thought was going to happen. Battle with Imperius is a great example. But I think that going from Act 3 to Act 4, again, just like in Diablo 2, there was a little bit of like what I felt to be like a jolting of the story change. And I wish there was a slightly better transition of things, or like the Zoltan Cool part where you save him, and immediately after you bring him back, you go fight him and you kill him. And it was like, well, that was expected, but like I would have preferred like certain things to be more fleshed out. I would have preferred to see like Zoltan Cool be the end act boss instead. Maybe you fight him, he escapes, you end up fighting him, Belial's still in hiding, you actually start Act 3 by fighting Belial. That would have, I think, been like a more interesting take on the story, segueing better into Azmodan. I know with the end of Reaper of Souls, spoiler alert, the way things kind of transition kind of leaves it open that everybody's back. So Diablo 4, I would imagine we're going to see all the seven evils, and experience that whole cluster of a mess, and all the lesser evils will be back. So I think it'd be cool to see how they segue each character and hopefully give each one a proper telling of their story. Um, but this has been my review of Diablo 3 and Reaper of Souls. Both contents are very good. The game, very good, very fun. Progression was very nice. Playing through, I got to level 63 with the Necromancer that I used, playing through on normal difficulty, and I did not use any stat buffing items or any items to kind of increase myself, as well as the Paragon system. The only thing I really used in that was movement speed, I think essence, and then like the nonsense stuff that didn't really affect combat here. I think maybe gold find. But other than that, I mean, the game, you know, had a nice progression system. I think the blacksmith recently got updated, so that he's more useful. But initially, kind of started the same as like the merchants did in the previous game. Now that you can make like level 70 items for certain things, it's better for like these upgraded versions of these sets. Like the Ashira's set got updated. I believe Demons got updated. But again, a lot of stuff in this game that you just never, ever, ever use. Never, never. There's no reason to. It's the unfortunate truth. You just, it's here for a short time, and because of the way progression changed, like wearing Kane's robes almost has no purpose unless you're really trying to maximize the extra experience gain, but then you would never be able to do torments. And that's what I mean when I talk about the animation piece. So 8 out of 10 is what I rate this game. Thank you for joining me in my Let's Play review of Diablo 3. If I missed anything, or you have any comments, thoughts, feel free to add. Thanks.